Hello everyone, my name is Cheese, and today we are going into part 2 of my Amazing World of Gumball Season 1 Rankin series. Obviously this is a part 2 video, so I will link part 1 up in the cards and also in the description box, because if you want to know how we got here, go check out that video. Because in the first video I covered episodes 1 through 20, and then this video will be covering episodes 21 to 36. So, if you haven't seen part 1, don't even bother continuing, just go check out that video, because I know that would need to be seen for this to make sense. And also, since this is a part 2, I am not repeating myself, so I am not gonna do the whole spiel. Yeah, I'm not repeating myself. But anyway, we are going to jump straight into this. Alright, so, I will say this. I found that this batch of episodes was a lot better than the previous batch, because I wasn't sure, like, going into this, like, what the second half would be like. But I must say that there is a lot more episodes that I do really enjoy compared to, like, not so much. So I will say that. Anyways, we are not starting off very strong at all. It's the Goons, which, besides the name of it, aging like milk, I don't I don't care about this at all. I will say, like, right now, like, spoiler alert, I suppose, this is gonna be the lowest ranked one, but it's not even gonna be, like, the lowest ranked one, or, like, anywhere close to it. So we are kind of off to a good start, but not really, because I can't be fucked with this episode, I'm sorry. It's like, the premise is just stupid. Like, don't get me started, like, the whole joke is like, "Oh, you're so stupid. Oh, thank you for the compliment." It's like, I get the joke. I understand the joke that they were doing here, but that doesn't mean that I like said joke, because my biggest issue with this episode is, like, there is enough that doesn't make sense to me for me to, like, enjoy it, because the main thing that I don't really understand with this one is Anais's character motivations, because the whole thing is that she doesn't want to be smart anymore because she cannot have fun. Even by season 1 character standards, this still doesn't make sense. I mean, I'd say right now this is my least favorite Anais episode of the season, at least. Maybe overall, I'll need to double check. But kind of the correlation that Anais, like, makes doesn't really line up, like, both practically and for the character. Because, like, one of the running jokes in this episode is how building puzzles with Nicole is so lame and nobody wants to do it. Well, first of all, I really like that they gave Nicole that kind of hobby characterization, because that is very cute. But it's like, why would Anais want to get involved with Gumball, Darwin, and Richard's antics when that is never something she's been previously shown doing? It's not so much that it's like she feels left out necessarily. I mean, kind of, but that's not the whole reason. Because the whole reason is she wants to quote unquote have fun. But what Gumball, Darwin, and Richard do is not really what she considers fun by her standards. It would make a lot more sense if this episode was completely framed around she doesn't want to feel left out, but it's not quite framed that way. Does that make sense? Because this entire time, specifically for Anais, I just have a hard time believing that she would do this. Especially, like, kind of the twist, I suppose, they have is that Anais takes over Gumball's position in like their play group, and she purposefully excludes Gumball, but also kind of rubs it in his face that he is not being included. And trying to say like, "Oh, it's so much better over here without you." It's like she is I don't understand any of that, to be quite honest, because why did she get in that situation in the first place? And two, why is she responding to that when she gets in the said situation that she shouldn't have been in the first place? I don't fucking know, man. I'm like, what I will have to say is that at least Gumball and Darwin seem to be in character during this episode. You may think, oh, it's way too stupid for it to work. I actually don't hate how they were like portrayed in this episode because this whole thing of them trying to help Anais like be stupid, I suppose, like they were being very genuine in their attempts, and them being that dumb sometimes is makes sense by season 1 standards at least. But this is another kind of episode that I've spoke about in the previous part of like this kind of pattern of Gumball being portrayed as kind of like like a pathetic loser kind of like I will speak more about this with other episodes, but there's just this distinct pattern in season 1 where they like just to beat Gumball when he's already down, like continuously. I've never found it interesting, and I still don't find it interesting that they just keep doing this. Especially in this episode when it's like it was very uncharacteristic of Anais to like keep punching him down like that after excluding him from the group. And it's just like in the ending, it's kind of like don't love it, is that Anais didn't realize that Gumball felt like he was being excluded or being Richard's favorite or whatever, and that she never wanted to take his place. Like she confesses that after Gumball admits to her the reason why he started the dumb race. Why would she be not aware of Gumball's feelings and to quote unquote never want to take his place when just a few minutes before Anais was deliberately rubbing in his face that he was not being included in the group? It's like, can we be so fucking for real? That doesn't add up, like, at all. So it's like, there's a lot of plot points and, like, character choices that don't add up, and I just don't find the plot itself, like, interesting at all. Like, I don't care about the dumb for the being sake of dumb type of humor that they got going here. So I don't really fuck with this. It's not the worst thing of this season, but I still prefer not to deal with that. I'm gonna put it only above the responsible because the responsible pisses me off more than the goons. So that was a pretty easy decision to make. Okay, so we're gonna lighten up the mood a bit with something that really surprised me. Well, I'll say in general that most of like my favorite season 1 episodes have really surprised me, but it's not like I forgot what this episode was about because this was one of the more memorable ones from when I was younger, is The Secret. I forgot how good this was. Like I don't know what I was expecting, but oh my god. So like I just love like the structure of all of this, and we'll just get right into it because the whole premise of this episode is that Gumball and Darwin get locked in the school bathroom and they think they are going to die in there. So they confess their deepest secrets to each other. And the first like really good joke, oh my god. I forgot about this one, but it was when Gumball's dark secret is that he admitted to drawing like a fucked up drawing inside of Darwin's textbook that made Darwin have to go to the psych ward for. I mean, that is so some shit Gumball would do, but the direct implications of Gumball being a little fucked up is kind of in character, but also kind of funny. So I just thought that was nuts. That that happened, and I don't blame Gumball for keeping that one in because, good lord. And but when Darwin is gonna admit his secret, Rocky unlocks the door and they can go free. And then Gumball prods Darwin for the rest of the episode to tell him this dark secret that he has, but Darwin just wouldn't do it because he's like, if I'm not in that situation again, I'm not gonna tell you, bruh. And I just love like the concept of this plot because we have very clear character motivations that make sense from both Gumball and Darwin. Because obviously Gumball, he's really curious. He always wants to know what Darwin's secret is. Because who doesn't want to know if it's really that bad as Darwin frames it to be? And then Darwin obviously doesn't want to tell him because it's a dark secret. Of course he doesn't want to tell Gumball if he doesn't have to. Like, I love all of this, especially when, like, as Gumball continues to prod Darwin, like, he puts. They don't show what he puts in Darwin's food that makes it spicy, but I'm gonna assume it's like hot sauce or peppers or something. And like having Darwin basically catch on fire as Gumball's like fucking with him by like trying to keep the milk away from him. Like, I found that personally entertaining, honestly. And another very good bit from this episode is when Gumball pretends to be like a telemarketer and is trying to get Darwin to tell him the secret by like making it like a contest question to like win something. And this one specific Darwin moment is probably one of my favorite Darwin moments in the season is when Gumball tells him that, oh, you can win spa vouchers if you answer the question. And then Darwin's like, is like so unimpressive. It's like, it's spa vouchers. I don't care. And then Richard's like, no, you have to get it because I want a pedicure or something like that. I don't know why I like that so much, but I do. But it is also revealed that Anais is actually in on Darwin's secret too, and then Gumball goes even more nuts trying to pry it out of both of them. But he thinks that Darwin told him the secret by saying that this you made me a sandwich that I said was great, but it was only good. It's like even if that didn't even if the ending wasn't a twist ending and that was just what the secret was, I would be perfectly fine with that because season 1 Darwin would totally do that. And the whole scene where they're like arguing slash apologizing with each other as they're like going down the sewer drain, I just thought visually that was very cool. But then the twist of when the secret that they decided to like not tell Gumball at all was how they posted like this really embarrassing video of him dancing on YouTube, and that also very much makes sense. And Gumball would probably flip his lid if he knew that happened, so that makes sense. But overall, I just think that this episode is both really tight, like plot wise, but also like I like how everyone acts here, and it's just like fun. Like this is a very fun episode and one I really quite enjoy. But I don't think it is one of my top favorites. I don't know why. It's like I really like it. It's just like I feel like I don't want to say oh Gumball is a little too annoying because in this situation it would make sense, but something about this that I can't quite place like can't put it above something like The Pressure or anything after this. Like it's good, but it doesn't really have that particular like wow factor that makes me want to place this any higher. But rest assured that this is still like very good and I will totally like watch this again. All right, keeping on the track of episodes that actually really surprised me. The sock. I forgot what this one was about, so it was surprising to actually watch it. But this one was I really did enjoy this one as well because it's the whole thing about Miss Simeon doesn't believe that Richard ate their homework. So they put Gumball and Darwin through the ringer, trying to basically guilt trip them into telling the truth or like learning the wrongs of lying. So they would tell them what quote unquote really happened because, spoiler alert, it is true that Richard ate their homework. And everyone was just like, oh shit, sorry about that. But I found this like really entertaining because I do prefer the stories that are in the school environment. We also get a lot of time with the other teachers, specifically Mr. Small, who is the star of this episode. Because first, he is so weird here. He usually is, but I found season one Mr. Small to be very charming and a little bit more unhinged. But I still can't get over his voice because that I'm so used to how he sounds later on. But Mr. Small does his very best to like basically give Gumball and Darwin therapy so they can learn how to stop lying. And it first goes that he's like, you have to tell the truth all the time because it will hurt someone's feelings if you don't tell them the truth. And then Gumball and Darwin take that at complete face value and misdirect it by insulting everybody. Not like bad faith, but just saying stuff that you wouldn't say to someone else. And one of the besides like that whole scene of like them going around and just like talking shit about people. My favorite part about that is when Principal Brown and Miss Simeon were together, and then Gumball just was just like, I find your relationship to be inappropriate for the school environment. And then they're just looking at him like, bruh, and they send him back to Mr. Small. But I must say that, like, the honesty rap was very memorable. It's not my favorite Gumball song, but you know what? It's a classic. But what really made this, like, save this from being a problem is that them being extremely gullible in this episode makes sense considering all the shits that is happening. Because again, by season one standards, they're still just like naive little kids. I mean, it's not surprising that they'll just blindly follow Mr. Small's advice. Perhaps a little too much so because of the silent snake sock that basically guilt trips the hell out of them enough to not say anything even when Mr. Small is in danger, when he is locked in the cabinet, and when they're trying to, like, tell other people about what happened, basically, like, miming it. I found like the whole thing where they're like miming their situation to like other teachers, and then the teachers would just immediately figure something out based on that performance, even though half the time it was completely wrong. Because what I found interesting was how Principal Brown and Miss Simeon were the dumb ones in that situation because they thought, like, Miss Simeon fell down the old well, I'm coming, and then they jump out the window and, like, break their leg. But Rocky being the one that actually completely understands them and actually goes to help them out. And then, of course, you know how it ends when they do admit that they were telling the truth the whole time, and y'all are the ones that are misinterpreting us, not us. It's like, well, I just overall like the vibe of this. Like, it's very entertaining, and it is pretty funny. But it again, it's like it doesn't quite have that extra oomph for it to be like peak for me because, I don't even know why. It's just like it just is. So I think what I can do with this one is still place it in good, just behind the G, because I liked the G a bit more in like how I like that message that they were giving out more than the message they were trying to give out in the sock. Because it just the kind of the vibe I got from the sock was that, like, adults never really listen to kids' concerns, and then they guilt trip them into like not saying any, like speaking up about stuff because the whole like silence snake thing. Listen, that's a whole conversation, but I'm just saying I like the overall messaging of this episode more than this episode, and that's all we need to know for right now. All right, next up we have the genius. Hmm. I don't like dislike it. I like it a little bit more than I originally thought I did, but I still have some issues. One of the things that I've noticed, at least compared to the sock, which was directly before this, is the characterization of Principal Brown, because in this episode he was just an asshole. Principal Brown has been shown to be an asshole before in this season, but I feel like this coming directly off of the sock, it's jarring. Like it just is, and I don't particularly enjoy it. Because I'm not a fan of like when Principal Brown is being portrayed as an asshole. Like he's like the super strict, super stoic teacher. It's like you have to do what I say or else. It's like that's Miss Simeon's job, not yours, dude. I prefer when he's like more nuanced, I suppose. But I didn't really care for that characterization because like when he was saying like Darwin is basically being abducted by the government because he scored the 100% on the aptitude test. He's like, well, he's the only smart one out of all of you. It's like, shut up, bro. But it was also particularly shocking when this is the first time we see that Darwin is legally registered as a pet fish. Like, oh my god. I don't know. I don't really fuck with that, but whatever. It is lore, I suppose. But perhaps what I liked most about this episode is the whole Gumball's motivation to be smart so he can get Darwin back. Because kind of like an overarching theme of this episode that I actually do really enjoy is this whole thing about the whole family is basically grieving for Darwin's loss and are so emotionally wrecked over his leaving that they go to the extremes in order to either get him back or to cope with the pain. I really like that. A nice, good family love message type of thing. Because Gumball is actually, he as I've said before, like he's been portrayed as a pathetic loser in this season, and most of the time he is self-aware of that, as is expressed here, because he's like, I can't do it, I'm too stupid, I will never be able to pass that test to get to Darwin. But then his brain, which becomes a separate entity in this episode, is like trying to hype him up to try really hard to study and build his brain as kind of like everyone says I can't, but I know we can if we try our best. And I'm like, I really enjoy that. And most of the episode was taken up by that type of plot. So that alone saves this up a good few places. And even the Nicole and Richard B plot of them basically adopting Rocky to be their Darwin replacement person, and they like go psycho on Rocky, like forcing him to do all these things so he can look and be like Darwin. Like that makes sense for them. It makes sense for everyone involved except for Principal Brown, I suppose, in what they are doing. Because as the ending shows, the government brings Darwin back to their house because they quickly realize that he was not the one who took the test. And Anais reveals that she was the one that took the test and put Darwin's name on it. Why she did this in the first place? Couldn't fucking tell you. But they then unanimously offer up Rocky to go with them because he needs somewhere to stay, and the government will give him free room and board if he tries to do like their aptitude experiments or whatever the hell they're using him for. But even though in this episode it's like all about Darwin, but we see him for like 2 seconds or whatever. But overall, this was actually it was better than I thought, but it's still not like oh my god. So I think with that being said, I'm gonna put it behind the refund because I kind of have like similar feelings. It's like I'm kind of torn because there's parts I really like, but there's parts I don't really care for, but they're both good, like overall. All right. So next we have another one that surprised me. The Poltergeist. I literally forgot what this was about, but I was very surprised to see that it was indeed a Mr. Robinson episode. And I usually do like Mr. Robinson episodes, and this one was no exception. Because if we must say the plot of this entire thing is so whack, but in a good way, in like a nice absurd way, because what do you mean that Gumball found Mr. Robinson unresponsive in the shed, so he drags him up to their attic, where he basically cares for him like a prisoner, but probably worse, and Mr. Robinson is just shell shocked and traumatized and doesn't do anything about it until Gumball and Darwin annoy him so much that he finally moves on his own or whatever. It's like, what the hell are we doing? But I'm so here for that. And paired with the B plot, which is Richard thinking their house is haunted because he hears Mr. Robinson in the attic, and then him and Nicole kind of going at it. And that's not really so much a focus of this episode, but the A and B plots are very tightly related. So the climax of Richard trying to battle the ghost, but ends up attacking Mr. Robinson instead, feels like a very satisfying build up to said climax. But the reason why this all happened in the first place is because Margaret basically kicked Mr. Robinson out of their house because they had lost their quote unquote spark, which is the joy they get from arguing with each other relentlessly. Again, this makes so much sense why them arguing is such an integral part of their relationship because, of course, it makes sense for those two. But what was particularly sweet and interesting was how Gumball and Darwin were trying many ways to, like, get Mr. Robinson to smile again. So they realize that, oh, he's only happy when other people are in pain. So they beat the shit out of themselves for Mr. Robinson, but that doesn't even really snap him out of the sad days. And I'm like, I really like how sweet like Gumball and Darwin are to Mr. Robinson for most of this episode, even though the consequences of their actions are not good. But the intention was there, and that's good. They wanted to help him, and they feel so bad for him, even though they are continuing to hurt him, which makes that the climax. This is probably one of my favorite like endings slash climaxes of this season is when Richard hits Mr. Robinson over the head of his vacuum, and that kind of like I guess, had trauma or something, reignites his like repressed anger, and he crashes the fuck out and tries to start breaking shit. And Margaret is standing on the other side of the fence, and this is when we instantly know that them arguing is like their sexual chemistry. Yup. It is so obvious that that is what they're trying to say. And basically, Margaret gets turned on by Mr. Robinson screaming and trying to break stuff. And then when Mr. Robinson's like, I feel like myself again, take me home, woman. And then they make out after that. And I like seeing them happy, so good for them, even if they hurt Richard's feelings. But you know what? Gumball helped him in the end, so that is good. I do really enjoy this, but like I think like a lot of the episodes in this batch, it's like I really like it, but it just doesn't quite have that edge that would like bump it up to peak, because I feel like the torturing of Mr. Robinson went on a little too long. It's like we get it. He's down. Why you keep beating him while he's down? I mean, the crash at the end was very valid for all of that. But sometimes it felt like a bit too much. I don't know. But I think I can comfortably put this behind the sock only because I find the sock overall to be a little more entertaining than the poltergeist, but I kind of feel about them very similarly, as like there's a lot of good here, but maybe like kind of like the overall vibe of it is not quite something that I would find peak, if you understand what I mean by that. Right, so yeah, that's right. The mustache. Listen, I never really cared for this one, but ugh, I just I don't even know, man. Cause this whole plot of Gumball and Darwin basically accidentally eating Richard's testosterone supplements, and then they act like grown men, and it's like a cool. It's like a guess it's a commentary on puberty or something, or why you shouldn't wish to grow up so fast because being a kid is so awesome and being an adult sucks balls. It's like, listen, maybe it's because I just don't personally agree with that sentiment. I mean, I know some people feel like that. I know there are so many people that wish that they could be like a kid again with less responsibilities or whatever. And adulting sucks, but it's like, man, I never want to be a kid again. I like being an adult. But again, that's my problem. But this is my tier list, so I'm gonna make it my problem. But I don't know, just like it's just weird in a way I don't really like. It's like why? I just want to know why. I didn't I didn't need all of that. It's just weird to see these kids act like grown men and like freaking out about it. It's like I don't find it funny or interesting. It's just slightly uncomfortable. Speaking of slightly uncomfortable, that running joke of Gumball rolling his stomach as like a party trick. I say it's a running joke because he literally did it like 3 times, and I'm like, enough of this shit. I don't want to see that. But I don't care. I really don't. I don't know what else to say besides like I don't care. I don't want to deal with it. So I'm only putting it above the goons because does this make sense? Sort of. Would they act like that in that situation? Probably. Would they think like that? Yes, actually they do, because in future seasons we will see episodes about this, specifically the kids from season 3? Yeah, season 3. So that makes sense. It makes sense. I just don't care for it. I Oh, speaking of don't really care for the date. Now this is unfortunate because I thought I used to like this one like more than I do now, only because it's pinball and as you know, big pinball shipper over here, so I just prefer whenever Penny shows up. But I just this is probably one of my least favorite pinball episode. Is it my least favorite? I don't really care for the Amadean either. Or the misunderstandings. I don't know where it sits among that, but I do. While I don't really completely care for it, it's not like it's not like whatever to me because there is some interesting things that they do here. Like I like the setup of like Gumball thinking he's going out on a date with Penny, only for him to mishear that it's not like a date, it's like a pet's funeral. So I think him being kind of a dick in this episode is okay-ish because he is simply misled to believe that he is doing the right thing. And one thing I do kind of appreciate is kind of like the advice he gets from Nicole and Richard and like kind of like the nuance to it. Where like Nicole is like, just be yourself. And then Richard's like, no, you have to change yourself because whenever a woman says you should be yourself, they don't like that part of yourself or whatever. And I'm like, why are they both kind of right, but also kind of wrong? I really appreciate that nuance. But one thing that I don't really understand really is Darwin teaching self defense lessons. Like, how, why? I mean, I guess every character has to teach Gumball some type of lesson, but where did this come from? Because if we may recall to the wonderfully weird episode, The Wrinkle, where it's portrayed as Darwin's biggest flaw is being not being able to defend himself. Where does this make sense? It doesn't really. Like maybe Darwin should teach Gumball how to be nice or something, like what Anais was doing. I don't know. But I also just didn't like the whole scene of him at her house and him being like kind of a dick to the spider, the tarantula, sorry, to the tarantula, and how he's like kind of just he's like so obsessed with Penny, but also kind of disregarding her feelings because he's like, oh, a funeral. I thought you meant a real person. Not just a pet. And then she gets really mad at him because obviously it's just like I don't know how to feel about any of that. But actually, in the end, he did find Mr. Cuddles, the tarantula, in the toilet after he's been exiled from the funeral. He comes to bring Mr. Cuddles back to them, and they're so very appreciative of him. And they basically do a 180 about how they feel about him, which is fine because he did do a big deed. But then plot twist, like Patrick says, "Oh, his bites aren't that poisonous. Don't worry." And then Gumball ends up in the hospital. And then it's like, you know what? I actually kind of like that twist ending. Well, first season one Gumball can never catch a break, but also it's like, okay, that makes sense. It's a big ass spider. It's probably gonna hurt. But I do wonder. I need to know if Mr. Cuddles was in the toilet. What was in the grave they dug? Because they did dig a grave. I don't I don't know what they put in there. It's one thing to just like have like a headstone or a rock or something, but no, it clearly looked like they dug a hole or something. And I'm like, not gonna think about that. But the thing is, like, I like this enough, but I'm gonna put it behind the genius because I simply like more about the genius than I like about the date. If this was not a pinball episode, then I wouldn't care even more. Because this kind of plot is not really something I dig too much, especially in the pinball context. All right, next. I think this is the most surprising one out of all of these. I had no idea how good the club was. I must say, out of everything in the season, this feels the most modern Gumball core, if you will. Because It's just like it's not quite even like by season 2 standards, but the kind of vibe of this is more modern than almost any of this. And I will get into why that is. So we follow them to Club Day, where everyone goes to the school to participate in their club. But my only main problem about this episode is like it is established that this activity is like a routine. But then why is Gumball being excluded now? Because surely he must have went to like other club day things or would have known that this was happening. So why are they making it such a big deal that he doesn't have something to go to, implying that he's never done this before? I don't know, but I think that's the only problem I really have with this one. Because something I really, really enjoy is how this is the first like real time in the series where not Gumball, Nicole has anger problems because she goes to her anger management class, and that's her club. Because she has outbursts of rage and starts breaking shit. This is not to say that she hasn't shown aggression before, because even in the first episode, the DVD, she does show that. But this is the first time where it's like upfront about it. This will not be the last time in this season that we will see something like that. And it was so funny when she just threw Mr. Shamal against the wall. That was funny. But like overall I really enjoy how much more depth they give these characters in this episode because each club that they participate in says a lot about their personality and interests and how they all kind of team up together in the middle to help Gumball be saved from embarrassment after the nerds try to upload a damning video of him, quote unquote, to the internet. And I like that kind of like teamwork that makes sense and like family love. Again, I always like when they do that. But something that would again kind of deepens this Gumball's a pathetic loser type of it. Not we'll call it an issue because I don't care for it myself. I feel like in this episode, it's okay with how they do it like that. Because Gumball feels so left out that he cannot be part of any club. And he's like, I'll do anything, I'll join any club, I don't care. And then the Reject Club, which are the eggs, the Bobbert and Ocho, which makes so much sense. When they offer Gumball to be the president of their Reject Club, Gumball's like, I'm desperate, but I'm not that desperate. No, thank you. It's like Gumball going from pathetic to being kind of an asshole. That makes sense. And then the nerds are like out for his ass, so they like forge a video of him saying all of this shit about himself as a threat. And it's like, you know what? This whole like setup and conflict, it does make sense. Specifically considering the characters that are in said Reject Club, like Bobber and Ocho would totally do that shit. I think this is like the first like really like prominent enough Ocho appearance, which I like. But this whole thing about Gumball acts better than he quote unquote is, or at least how they want to portray him to be. That he's like I'm like nobody likes me, to being like I'm still better than you. It's like, you know what? He would think both of those things. But what was interesting was kind of the fake out. Because we thought that after all this build up, after all of these like fight scenes, they didn't make it on time to stop the video upload. Then Gumball breaks down. But then Anais later reveals that she intersected the upload and it never actually went online. Which was an interesting fake out because I was completely convinced, like, oh, they just lost. They lost this battle, okay. But it's like the first setup was realistic, but also the second setup was also realistic. So that's a very good switch up. But what I don't quite understand is why they tied the rejects up in the back of their car. Well, Nicole did. It was implied that she did it. And she is thinking of whatever punishment would be appropriate for them. And when they finally land on drop you off naked at the mall, the rejects agree enthusiastically at doing that. I don't know what that means, and I don't want to know what that means. But it keeps you on your toes, I suppose. But like overall, this is really 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 good. So much so that this is my favorite one right now. As of will that change later? You'll have to find out. But I really fuck with this. I like anything of modern vibes, especially in season 1. Okay, next up. Oh boy, okay. The wand. Listen, we got a lot to speak about. We got a lot to speak about because I am not even confused. It's just like, what the hell is this? So, this whole thing about Gumball and Darwin trying their best to perform magic tricks for Richard, who is 100% unironically believing that a plastic wand from a cereal box is a real magic wand. I understand that that is something that Richard would do. And I actually don't mind this whole concept of Gumball and Darwin trying their best to do a very nice thing for Richard. But I think it goes a little too far. Because maybe for like the first half of this episode, I feel like it's fine. But then as it keeps going on, I feel like, I think this is a bit too much. So it's like, but then the ending was good because they did apologize and like make up in the end and it was really cute. So it's like, I'm confused. Because the one thing about this that is hanging me up is like, I guess the climax fight scene where Richard is forced them to do more and more absurd actions simply out of spite. So we don't escape Richard being an asshole in this episode when all they're trying to do is help him out so he doesn't get re traumatized because his whole part about Granny JoJo telling him that magic wasn't real and him freaking out for eternity because magic is not real. So that's why, and this is what I like about this episode, is that we have clear motivations from Gumball and Darwin to do the absolute most because they can't have Richard crashing out again. That makes a lot of sense. It also makes enough sense that Richard would go through all this to begin with because, yes, he is that dumb. And add in some like childhood trauma, like lore details to his character is actually good. And kind of like the moment that sets everything off to spiral downwards, if you will, is when they run into the Robinsons in their yard and Gumball and Darwin are reluctantly doing horrible things to the Robinsons based on the things that Richard wishes to happen. And this is when Gumball and Darwin are like, I think he's using his powers for evil. We should probably stop him. But then this is also when Richard was like, I am a god. I can do whatever I want, and it's all mine. It's like the stake. We actually have some decent stakes in this episode. It's like, yeah, Richard's now a power hungry maniac, and Gumball and Darwin are just at the dispense of Richard's whimsies because they simply cannot let their father down. But I also did enjoy that they use like more cartoon logic here because like the whole like make your face kiss his butt and make his butt kiss your face or whatever the fuck they were doing with it, and they would like actually do it just based on cartoon logic because up It wasn't up to this point where that started to happen because before they used a bunch of like practical effects, if you will, to make this all look realistic. But now it's like you're bending the laws of physics to make it as realistic as possible because you cannot slip up in this dangerous situation. I enjoy that. But you know what I didn't enjoy? That I high key forgot was in this episode that makes me sick? When Richard casts the love spell on Gumball and Darwin with nothing but evil intentions, and then Gumball and Darwin are so physically uncomfortable that they're sweating. But in this dangerous situation, they have to, like, do it to appease Richard. And all they do is give each other, like, an awkward hug because who. I hate everything about that. That is fucking disgusting. I didn't realize that was in this episode. I'm like, Jesus fucking. I don't fuck with that at all. Richard trying to make his two sons be romantic to each other with nothing but evil intentions just to fuck with them. Get me out of here. I cannot deal with that. But besides that extremely damning thing, uh, I don't think I have a choice but to put it in whatever. I was thinking about it. It's like, well, I kind of like the setup, and them doing a nice thing was kind of cool. But it's like, there's too much wrong with this for it to be good. One of the better Richard episodes, and that doesn't say a lot, but I cannot get past how Richard acted in the second half. I just can't. It's too much. It's like how it was too much in like the laziest. It's like I can't. Anyway, the ape is better. Okay, we're gonna move on from that. The ape, I forgot what this was about, but it's really not that bad. It's not like my favorite, but it's really not that bad because one, it's a Miss Simeon story, and I am more interested in Miss Simeon stories. And this whole thing of she wants to win the Best Teacher award. But Rocky clocks her shit and says, you need a student that actually likes you to nominate you for this award. And you have nobody that likes you, you stupid bitch. And I'm like, wow. But she gets so extremely butthurt by this that she comes up with her evil scheme to convince Gumball to write her that letter in a trick for her to get nominated. That makes sense. That all makes sense why she would do that. But the one thing I don't understand why she did was the whole part in the first half where she's just following Gumball around unresponsively. Like she's just there, staring at the ground, looking sad as she follows Gumball around school and goes back to his house where she is confronted by the family. I don't know why she was so passive in that. I know she was disappointed by the fact that no one liked her, but it's like I don't know if that's in character. That's the thing. Like it's in character for her to come up with this whole scheme, but it's not really in character for her to do this specific thing. It just makes it kind of weird and like awkward in a way that I don't love. Like the whole and the other thing that bothers me. The other thing that really bothers me is like Miss Simeon has to basically be re-socialized by Gumball and Darwin to teach her how to make friends because she literally has no idea how to make friends and she is just the most socially awkward person in existence. I don't buy that shit for 1 second because mind you, she is hundreds of years old. I think she's like 700 something years old. There is not a chance in hell that she doesn't have social skills enough to know how to give a proper high five. You got me fucked up if you think that's realistic. I don't care how many people don't like you or how many friends you don't have. You know how to be a person. It's like her first fucking day on Earth, and she's like hundreds of years old. It's like, can we be so for real? Can we be so for real? Because I can't. While all of this is weird, we do have a good climax with her finally tricking Gumball into writing the letter, and then she steals it, admits her true motives to them, and gets the hell out of there. And Nicole, by being shown to have previous beef with Miss Simeon, is like, fuck it, we roll, we're going after her because she can't get away with tricking us. Specifically lying to her kids. And they have this whole big car chase scene, which I really love when there's any chase scenes. But it is so in character for both Miss Simeon to be so dead set on receiving this letter, and also Nicole being so dead set on serving justice for her family. Which makes this, like, chase scene that more, like, it's very meaningful. And even down to when Miss Simeon's car is teetering over the cliff and she still chooses to reach down and grab it, despite falling off the cliff as she does it. And they laugh at her for it. I thought that was weirdly dark for season one, to like them laughing at what we assume to be her death, but it's not really because she is shown that she actually did win the award. Good for her, I guess. But yeah. So it's not like my favorite Miss Simeon story, but I do like this despite the problems I have with it. But I honestly can't rate it as highly among my goods. Because what I think I'm gonna do is put it above the genius. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Okay, next we have the car, which is another Mr. Robinson episode. So this is pretty good, even though it is not my favorite Mr. Robinson episode of this season, because this whole thing about Gumball and Darwin trying to basically bother them into giving their ball back after they threw it in the yard. They want to like keep helping out Mr. Robinson. And they kind of like they excel too well, because whatever absurd task that Mr. Robinson gives them, they do it in like 2 seconds and done perfectly. Because Mr. Robinson wants to basically torture them into doing tedious and time consuming tasks to get him off their back. But when they keep subverting his expectations, he crashes out and makes them go away. And this episode particularly had some good physical humor, as most Mr. Robinson episodes have. And no matter how many times he kicks them out or whatever, they still keep coming back and basically forcing their help upon them because they just love him so much and want to do everything for him. Yeah, that makes sense for them. But after much defeation, Mr. Robinson reluctantly agrees to let them clean his new car. And with pure intentions, Gumball and Darwin go to clean his car, only to break it upon touch. And they are having a meltdown, thinking, we let Mr. Robinson down, we ruined his brand new car, and they feel like it was all their fault. But then, plot twist, is actually was everybody's fault, because both Nicole and Richard have also tampered with the car. I actually love that this is like a group effort to like involve the whole family in this mess. But despite all of that, I don't necessarily think that each like subplot of this episode necessarily works. specifically with Nicole and Anais, because Anais forces Nicole to go to the Daisy on Ice show with her, and her being distracted while she backs up the car is the reason why she hit the car in the first place. But Anais being this aggressive about something like that, or just being that aggressive to Nicole in general, I just don't really find that it's super in character for her. Like how she keeps saying like you would be such a horrible mother if you didn't take me to the show. It's like I understand that Anais has her like childish moments at times, and most of the time I do enjoy those. But this is just feels like mean for the sake of being mean just to beat Nicole up, and I'm like, I don't know. I just it doesn't make a lot of sense for me. But something that surprised me in a good way was how Gumball was the one that suggested that they should tell them and do the right thing despite everyone else not wanting to tell him that they wrecked the car. Because since when has Gumball ever come up with a logical, good natured solution to anything? So that really surprised me that it was in Gumball's kind heart that he said, we need to do the right thing for the sake of Mr. Robinson. But when they're about to do that, it is too damn late because the Robinsons are already fucking up their car and breaking it with golf clubs as revenge for breaking their car. And the police are after them, and eventually they do get arrested. All of this makes sense, and I quite enjoy it. But I don't know. It is not better than the Debt or the Poltergeist in terms of Mr. Robinson episodes this season. And there are some parts about this that I don't care for. But that doesn't say it's bad at all. And in fact, I still think that it should be in the good category. But I think I'm actually changing my mind right now because in my original list, I said that the car went under the date, but now that I'm rethinking about it, the car has more I like because the overall plot structure is more of what I prefer, and the date is just not what I want from a pinball episode, so I think I'm gonna make that decision. Anyway, next up we have the curse. Ugh. Ugh. I really don't care for this one. I don't care for, quite frankly, any needless gumball torture scenes, but this is basically another whole episode about that, and I'm like, I'm all set. But first, just starting straight off the bat, the framed photo of the roller coaster scene from the dress being hung up in the hallway. Nah, 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 I'm all why? 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 We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not being reminded of that. Anyway, this whole thing about Gumball just being cursed. Like, he can't catch a damn break because bad shit just keeps happening to him. Whether he misses the bus or, like, he getting his clothes from the lost and found, which is more embarrassing than him wearing his torn up clothes because what do you mean that a speedo with a hat is more appropriate than him wearing like ripped pants? Don't ask me, but we're gonna roll with it. But my absolute I must say, I don't really care for this one, but my favorite part of this is probably one of the most iconic jokes in season 1 is when Gumball says, "Where'd you get your brain? The dollar store." I love that. Like, this whole scene, the whole scene of like, I think it was Banana Joe in Idaho, where like keep repeating the same joke of "Where'd you get your clothes? The lost and found?" And then Gumball just doesn't give a fuck, and he's like, "You know what? Where'd you get your brain? The dollar store?" And then that's what gets him detention, as an addition to his bad luck streak. That's probably my favorite scene out of this whole episode. But still, I don't like the we don't really like the rest of it that much because he just keeps getting shit after shit piled onto him, and it's like, enough! I get it! I get it! He's a pathetic loser that nothing can go right. But you've already established that so many times before. We don't need a whole episode dedicated to that. We have other episodes where this happens too. Enough of this. It just feels like a deliberate excuse to torture Gumball. It's like, okay, I'm all set. And I must say, like, visually, like, the scene where he's, like, rolling down the highway in the mop bucket is visually cool, but again, it just keeps. Give the poor guy a fucking break, I swear to God. But then, oh, look, the fake out ending where it's like, oh, we want Daisyland tickets, and the Daisyland tickets fly through the air, and they think, oh, look, they just flew right to us, and then they get chopped up in the fan, and I'm like, God damn it. I've had enough of this. It's like, nah, I'm all set. But it's not as, like, uninteresting or as some of these other ones, so I'm gonna put it above the prank, in between the prank and the picnic, because that, like, the picnic I just really have no feelings for because I don't care. And the prank is like, it's pretty good, a lot better than the curse, so we're gonna leave it at that. Next, we have possibly one of the more memorable season 1 episodes is the microwave. I actually enjoyed this more than I ought to. Because my biggest takeaway from the microwave is they just do some really interesting things in this episode, specifically with characterizations that we just haven't seen from season 1 yet. Because of, as we know, the whole shtick is that Gumball makes a gross jar, microwaves it, and accidentally creates sentient life, and the little mud baby, or whatever the hell it's supposed to be, eventually destroys everything and takes over. Well, that is, I do, like, don't mind that plot, even though it was a little bit annoying to, like, let's get into that actually. The characterizations of Gumball and Darwin specifically in this episode, because this is the only time this season that we really see a dynamic like this, is when Gumball realizes that they made a baby. He is super excited about it. It's like, oh my god, that means I'm a mom, and that means you can be the dad, Darwin. And Gumball is so excited and so determined to take care of the little mud baby. But Darwin's like, hell nah, I'm getting out of here. Like, like being like a deadbeat baby daddy to their mud baby, and that was honestly so funny because like by season 1 Darwin standards, we would have not expected that coming from a mile away. So it's like I like a good subversion of what we usually expect. And also, we can say the same thing for Gumball because him being the nurturing, concerned mother figure type of character, who always wants to give the baby the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, he's just a baby. He's just a growing boy. It's like when he's like eating people alive. Like Gumball is in so much denial, not necessarily because he's completely delusional or naive, but like kind of like these quote unquote maternal instincts kind of override all of his logic because that is technically his baby that he made. I don't want to say it's even like specific, like, oh, they have gender roles now. But the fact that they did that at all is kind of is actually very interesting because I didn't know that they could behave like that. Even by like modern characterization standards, I don't even know if like if say you were to do this type of plot in a later season, how they would approach it. But I just thought that this was a very interesting interpretation of what they would do in a situation like that. But more than anything, this episode reminds me of that classic SpongeBob episode where SpongeBob and Patrick are parents to the clam baby. This is almost exactly like that, except this baby's more destructive than the clam. And this whole thing of like, oh, they realize he's a man-eating monster, and we have to save everybody because he eats the mailman, Richard, Nicole, and Anais. And it's up to Gumball and Darwin to save them all from being digested. And then they make this elaborate. I like the build up to this scene because like the suspense of Nicole in the backyard trying to find Richard, only to get eaten by the monster. And like with Anais when she's like looking at him, and we can see a brief shot from the baby's point of view. I actually like how this plot progresses a lot. But what I don't know if I'm unsure about, but it's just like this is just what happens is that Gumball and Darwin, we don't know why Darwin is asking for a second chance, but okay. So Gumball and Darwin convince Nicole, Richard, and Anais to give the baby a second chance because now that the baby is smaller and less evil, quote unquote, that like we'll do better next time. He's just a baby. Give him a second chance. Only for a cutscene to the end where he's even bigger and destroying shit like Godzilla. So it's like should have listened to them earlier, bro. I would say like, oh, is that out of character? But it's like, you know what? I like the characterization here. I just do. So I like this a lot, but there are some parts of it that I'm unsure about. Specifically, the ending is concerning me a bit. But I do think this is very good. But I'm only going to put it just under The Secret because I think about these two pretty similarly. Alright. Oh my god. The Meddler. I knew I always liked this one. Like, this is one of the most memorable episodes of this season. And I don't know, like, if you're an OG in the Gumball fandom, you know how many people drew Gumball in that cheerleading outfit. I'm just saying, maybe that's why it's memorable, because everyone and their mother drew Gumball in his cheerleading outfit, alright? But this is one of my favorites from this season. I just really like everything about this. Because this whole thing is that Gumball feels like he is not getting enough attention from his parents, so Nicole tries to make it up to him by basically stalking Gumball throughout his school and unintentionally makes life worse for him. Part of me wants to say, is that in character for Nicole to do that? You know what? At the end of the day, she is a mother, so she will coddle her children like that anyway. Alright? And it's her kind of what I think is what kind of saves this from making me side eye is that her intentions are so pure. She just loves Gumball and she wants to do everything for him. And I'm like, you know what? Sure. Sometimes I'm thinking, do you really? Because she's like convincing Principal Brown to give him more detention for him almost burning off his face. That one got me a bit like, what? But it's my only issue is that specific scene. But I really liked how she like teaches Gumball how to cuss out Tina. But after that, Gumball's expectations lower as she continues to embarrass him in front of his peers until it gets too late when Nicole almost forces Gumball to ask out Penny by asking out Penny for him. This scene is so brutal, but I love it so much for the angst factor alone. Is when Nicole, against Gumball's will, tries to get the fact that he has a crush on Penny and like pry it out of him. But Gumball, in a freak out, It's like, no, I don't love Penny, and I never will. And then she just cries and walks away. Man, that is so brutal. My pinball heart hurts at that, but it's the good kind of good angst because it gets amended in the end. But man, that's one of my favorite season one pinball moments is that scene. And just them in this episode I quite like. It makes sense. And like Nicole's motivations make sense because she wants to help Gumball. Gumball's motivations make sense because what 12-year-old boy wouldn't be embarrassed with their mother following them around school and embarrassing them? And Darwin trying his absolute hardest to keep it together, but he just can't. And then Gumball's like, I don't need you. I need to make my own decisions, mother. And then he's like, no, come back. I did something really stupid. And the whole thing about him kind of like transform into like this hormonal teenage girl as soon as he puts on the cheerleading outfit. He's like, be there for me? You're my mother. What else would you do? It's like, that was funny. It's like, I don't know why he did that, but I'm like, you know what? Sure. Because like the ex, I don't, because the whole thing about him, like, I'm gonna beat Penny at her own game, but I'm self-conscious about how my butt looks in these shorts, and I'm like, might have could have done without that part, but him actually using his cartwheeling skills to do some good, and he flopped so hard that Penny was able to make the team, despite her probably not doing so otherwise. It's just like I love this. I just do. And you know what? I'm changing my mind again. Originally, I had the club above this, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. This is just too. I get too invested in this shit, so I think I'm gonna do that. Very good. Alright. This is my favorite season 1 episode. The helmet. Oh, yeah. I didn't forget about this. I really didn't, because this is one of the most memorable episodes of this season. But upon rewatch, I'm like, damn, damn. Because, again, if you were like an OG in the Gumball fandom, you know how many fan pieces of angst were written about this episode. In the fandom, when this was the most angst we have gotten that far, everyone and their mother made fan works about this episode, whether it was art or fan fiction or whatever. So this is kind of like has some nostalgic factor to it, even though this season 1 was not my introduction to the series. But I just love this. I just really do. This whole concept of Gumball has this, somehow it appears, we don't question it, the lucky tinfoil hat. But he says, "Oh, when you win all the time, it's boring. I guess I don't really want this anymore." But that it is determined that the hat does in fact have magical powers because it was able to get richer on a game show and Nicole a promotion. And then Gumball's like, wait a minute, why? Why are they winning all the time? But then Darwin's like, dude, you're being so lame with your helmet because all you would do with it is do stupid party tricks and not do anything meaningful with it. And then Gumball is like in so much denial that he's like, well, I actually like to fail. It is good to screw up sometimes because that is life, is having mistakes and learning from them. The cope is extreme, but he's in such deep denial until he just crashes and is like, I need the fucking helmet back right now or I'm gonna go insane. And this is probably the most insane that he goes this entire season. Obviously, nothing has topped this, but he basically gets like mentally possessed to get this helmet at any cost. And it is directly stated that the helmet itself does inherit magical powers to do whatever they wish. Because Richard does go on the game show and does win the boat that he wanted. But the only reason why Nicole didn't get her promotion was because she crashed out. Because Richard gave her the wrong hat, or like a fake hat, even though she would have gotten the job if she simply kept her cool. Which I found interesting, because it's like, yes, the hat technically has the powers. There's still elements of this plot that it's like, nah, you gotta be responsible for your own actions sometimes, because you can't just have everything handed to you. But then, at this realization that there's only one hat, but so many people want to have its power, they fight over it. So, this is an off-screen event, but when Darwin and Anais come to the conclusion that, like, we gotta get rid of this shit right now, or else it's gonna tear this family apart. And probably the best scene of the entire season, I'm saying it right now, is when Darwin and Anais go to the garbage dump to drop the hat in the incinerator, and then Gumball is going savage on them, using the hat's magic for evil by beating down Darwin and Anais until the hat almost rolls off the cliff, and Gumball is fully convinced he is going to jump into the fire to get the helmet because he's like, I need this. This is my life. I am nothing without this. And then Anais is like, but Gumball, we're nothing without you. And then he's like, okay, I guess I'll just drop it. And then they have a cute hug at the end. Oh my god. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Oh my god. I don't think this is an unpopular opinion. I really don't, but this is so good. The storytelling is so good. I love this. And finally, the fight. We're not going off on a low note, actually. We aren't. But I can't say this one was my favorite. Because you know what? This episode bamboozled me. I forgot what happened in this episode. But upon, like, reflecting upon it, I'm like, this bamboozled me. But that was actually a really smart writing decision to do that. Because this whole thing revolves around Anais being fully convinced that Gumball is getting bullied by Tina, and she accidentally arranges them to have a fight in the schoolyard. But then it turns out to be a big misunderstanding because Tina was trying to be friends with Gumball. It's just like her actions don't always align with her intentions. Because she's like, everyone thinks I'm such a brute, but I'm really not. I'm just lonely and want some friends. I was fully convinced, like, at the first minute, that's like, Gumball is so fucking stupid. Why doesn't he see that she is hurting him? But plot twist, she wasn't. And he didn't think she was hurting him, and she didn't think she was hurting him. So it's not like it was, like, one-sided, like, one person knew exactly what was. Like, one person had ill intentions. No, they both had good intentions. Oh, that was cute. Like, I feel like a similar vein is like the quest, I suppose, where it's like Tina's actually nicer than you might think she is, which I really love when they humanize Tina like that because it happens a lot in the series where Tina is kind of being dehumanized because of who she is, as like a scary dinosaur. So I really did like this episode. It was just kind of the whole thing of nobody believes Gumball that he is not being bullied because he keeps saying like everything's fine, everything's fine. I don't know what you're talking about, but everyone's like, no, he's fucking lying. It feels like the sock actually. It's like I'm telling the truth. I swear to God, and everyone's like, no, you're not. Screw you. So it's like I do feel, now that I say that, I do feel about the sock and the fight very similarly. What I'm just gonna go with the placement I already had because I'm not gonna think too hard about it. I'm gonna put it behind the refund simply because I like all of these better up to the sock. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Oh my god, okay, so we finally reached the end of this saga. This was a journey, man. But as we can see, I like a lot more episodes than I don't like. We see the good category is very populated, and there's actually more peaks than I thought there would be. Granted, we still have some damning offenders down here. But like my overall thoughts about this season, like my big thesis sentence, is that this is better than I thought it was. Straight up. I admit, I was wrong in being so skeptical about this. Sure, it's not like how the rest of the series is, but it's doing its own thing, you know. I mean, maybe like after watching enough episodes and you just get kind of used to how shit just is, you kind of be more receptive about what they're trying to do. Is this still better than anything that would come after this? Absolutely not. No. But I respect this for like setting the groundwork for what would come later. Is all of it great? No. But it was definitely doing its thing, and I will say that much. Yes, there's some shit that we don't like to talk about, but it's like, you know what? That's not bad. It's really not bad. At least not as bad as I thought it was. I never thought it was horrible, but I'm like, compared to everything else, it's not good. But it's good. It's good enough. It's definitely good enough. So with that being said, I will be continuing this series. I will. With season 2. I am so excited to move on to season 2 because now we're getting to the shit that I really, really enjoy. But that being said, I guess I'll give kind of like my plans for the next few uploads on this channel because the first part of season 2 will not be coming for a while. And let me tell you why. Because the next video I have planned is ranking Smile and Friends season 3 worst to best. It's not going to be like a tier ranking because there's only a handful of episodes, but I will be doing a definitive worst to best ranking for Smile and Friends season 3. And we only have a few episodes left of the season because as of recording this, we have a few episodes left, and I absolutely want to talk about them because that's my Roman Empire right now is season 3. But even after that, I am saying this as of today because today it has been officially announced that we get the second half of the first season of the wonderfully weird world of Gumball coming December 22nd. As of right now, it is November 20th as of recording this. So I will 100% be making a tier ranking video about part 2. I already made part 1 of that, so link up in the cards, but I'm so fucking excited, man. I am so excited, but also kind of scared. But I'm gonna have a field day with Wonderfully Weird. So as of right now, season 2 is just gonna get backburned because I'm gonna put up the Smile and Friends video in December, and then the Wonderfully Weird Part 2 in January. And then it probably won't be until February until we'll get the Season 2 video, because my time and brain capacity is only allow me to make one big cartoon video like this a month, because I do a lot of other things, and these videos take up a lot of time because there's a lot of planning that go into them. So rest assured that season 2 will be coming. It's just we got other shit to worry about. Not worry about, get excited about, because all of this is super exciting. So please subscribe to the channel if you are interested in any of those future plans. But yeah, I hope to see you next time. Bye.